Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. So continuing with the discussion on Krishna book, chapter 87, prayers by the personified Vedas. So continuing with the commentary by Srila Prabhupada. The personified Vedas continued their prayers. Dear Lord, your impersonal feature is explained in the Vedas. You have no hands, but you can accept all sacrifices offered to you. You have no legs, but you can walk more swiftly than anyone else. Although you have no eyes, you can see whatever happens in the past, present, and future. Although you have no ears, you can hear everything that is said. Although you have no mind, you know everyone and everyone's activities, past, present, and future. And yet, no one knows who you are. You know everyone, but no one knows you. Therefore, you're the oldest and supreme personality. So it's very confusing. If the Vedas themselves are saying, your impersonal feature is explained in the Vedas. They're saying it's explained by us. What? You have no hands, but you can accept all sacrifices offered to you. So does that mean this impersonal feature we all know? Yes, in impersonal feature he has no hands. Means there is no form, no person. But last line say, you are the oldest and supreme personality. Isn't it? It's a clash. What is it trying to say? So when Vedas say, oh Lord, you have no hands, means he has no material hands. He has spiritual hands. He has spiritual legs. He has transcendental legs. He has transcendental eyes. Not the eyes like we have. And another beauty of his features is, he can do any activity with any of his features or angas. Angani yasya saklendriya vritti mante. That's another beauty. He doesn't have to eat just like we eat. Of course, it doesn't mean he cannot eat like we eat. He can do whatever, everything. He can eat or he can accept our offerings just by looking at them. Why he has to sit down and eat and finish off everything in his plate, just like we have to do? He's not bound like that. If he wants to, he can eat. As Govardhan, he ate everything. As Jagannath, he eats every day chapan bhog, and he really eats. So the thing is, he's beyond our conditions, our foundations, our limitations. Limitations are on us, not on him. There's a huge difference. We cannot conceive of that, and we cannot put our limitations on it. Thinking, oh no, if we cannot do it, he cannot do it. Why? Why is it that so? Similarly, in another part of the Vedas, it is said, you have nothing to do. You're so perfect in your knowledge and potency that everything becomes manifest simply by your will. There is no one equal to or greater than you, and everyone acts as your eternal servant. See, everything becomes manifest simply by your will. All the material world, everything, whole creation, just by his will. Yes, it should be so. And it appears. He doesn't have to sit down and make drawings, make plans, make everything possible. Yeah, it should be like this. No, just by his desire. That's when ignorant politicians or anybody else, when they say, how can Lord Ram build a bridge from India to Sri Lanka? Where were the plans? Where did he go to college? He doesn't have to do all this. He's a source of knowledge. He's a source of all the energies. He doesn't have to go and gain any knowledge. Although he let Hanumanji and all the monkey army build the bridge, he didn't have to even ask them. Just by his will, he could have built the bridge. That we have to stop thinking from our limited understanding and limited brains, limited intelligence about his qualities and his form and his energies. What's a simple little bridge, 800 miles long? What's it for him? He created the whole universe with billions and billions of planets floating in it, supporting life forms all over the universe. He didn't even have to will to make the bridge. Even then, the bridge would have been completed. All he did was he gave a chance to the monkeys to perform devotional service. That's all. But people think he's like us. He can act like us. He's not like us. Similarly here Vedas are saying there is no one equal to or greater than you, and everyone acts as your eternal servant. Jivera Swarup hai Krishnera Nitya Das. Nitya Das. This is what our position is. We should not forget it. Thus, the Vedic statements affirm that the Absolute has no legs, no hands, no eyes, no ears, and no mind, and yet he can act through his potencies and fulfill the needs of all living entities. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, his hands and legs are everywhere, for he is all pervasive. The hands, legs, ears, and eyes of all living entities are acting and moving by the direction of the supersoul sitting within the living entity's heart. So our hands and legs are moving because of his sanctioning. And what to think of his hands and legs? Unless the supersoul is present, it's not possible for the hands and legs of living entities to be active. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great, independent, and perfect that even without having any eyes, legs, or ears, he is not dependent on others for his activities. He's not dependent. He just lets them do their service so that living entities can get benefited. On the contrary, others are dependent on him for the activities of the different sense organs. Unless a living entity is inspired and directed by the Supersoul, he cannot act. So there's conditions on us, not on him. The fact is that ultimately the absolute truth is a supreme person. He's a person. But because he acts through his different potencies, which are impossible for the gross materialists to see, the materialists accept him as impersonal. So he has different potencies which are impossible for the gross materialists to see. We don't have those eyes to see his potencies, to see his form, to see his senses. That's why we think he should be impersonal. For example, one can observe the personal artistic work in a painting of a flower, and one can understand that the color adjustment, the shape, and so on have demanded the minute attention of an artist. Right? We all have seen paintings. Suppose we see a painting of a flower. So there should be an artist behind color adjustment, shape, and there are so many other things. Of course, in a painting, artist cannot put the fragrance in the flower. The artist's work is clearly exhibited in a painting of different blooming flowers. But the gross materialist, without seeing the hands of God in such artistic manifestations as the actual flowers, not the painting flowers, actual flowers blooming in nature, concludes that the absolute truth is impersonal. So here the painter has drawn this painting, and we conclude, because we have seen the painter and his painting, we conclude, okay, so he is a person. But because we don't have the eyes to see, there's so many flowers and so many varieties in the material world, but because we don't see the artist, we think he must be impersonal. Why? Actually, the absolute is personal, but he is independent. He does not require to personally take a brush and colors to paint the flowers, for his potencies act so wonderfully that it appears as if flowers have come into being without the aid of an artist. This is his beauty. The impersonal view of the absolute truth is accepted by less intelligent men, because unless one is engaged in the service of the Lord, one cannot understand how the Supreme is acting. One cannot even know the Lord's name. Everything about the Lord's activities and personal features is revealed to the devotee only through his loving service attitude. So unless until one accepts Lord is a person, or he starts serving him, Krishna is not going to give him the intelligence to know Krishna. And once somebody has a little idea of what Krishna is, how beautiful and how powerful, how merciful he is, then obviously he will engage in devotion service with more determination, more love, more attention, more caring. And then Krishna will reveal more about himself to that devotee. So this reciprocation goes on between the devotee and the Lord through the medium of devotion service. But those who are impersonalists, gross materialists, they just cannot understand all this. So that's why they think devotees are crazy, devotees think they are crazy. So everybody thinks everybody else is crazy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapsa. The Lord is the enjoyer of all sacrifices and of the results of all austerities. Then the Lord says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the proprietor of all planets. So that is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While he says he is present in Golok Vrindavan, enjoying transcendental pleasure in the company of his eternal associates, the gopis and the cowherd boys, all over the creation, his potencies are acting under his direction without disturbing his eternal pastimes. That's another beauty. In Brahm Samhita, it is said, Golokev Nivasati Akhilatma Bhutva. He is situated in Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual planet, and Akhilatma Bhuta, he is everywhere else. So he is performing his eternal pastimes, like the Ras Leela and other pastimes in Golok Vrindavan, but all over the creation also his potencies are acting under his direction without disturbing his eternal pastimes. And there's so many other beautiful arrangements that he has, that when we come to know all this, then we are really awestruck. For example, in material world, there are millions and millions, innumerable number of universes. And in every universe in the material world, one or other of his pastimes are going on simultaneously. So here in this universe that we are in, his pastimes are not manifested right now. But some other place, he must be taking birth right now. Some other universe is killing Putna. Some other universe is dancing on Kalia. Some other universe is lifting Govardhan Hill. Some other universe is killing Kamsa. Some other universe, Mahabharata is going on. He is speaking on Bhagavad Gita. Some universe, Lord Ram is performing his pastimes. Some other place, Narsimhadev is there. But they all are there simultaneously in the planets in the spiritual world and passing and having their particular pastimes over there. It's mind-boggling. And more mind-boggling thing. Now in Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, let's go to that place. Krishna, Radharani said he has billions and billions of gopis with her. And there are so many servants, so many associates of Krishna. Of course, Nanda Baba is one, Yashoda Maya is one, Radharani is one, Datta Vishaka they are one. But there are so many other servants, other devotees. So suppose there are so many gopis, elder gopis who want to see Krishna as their son. Their cowherd friends who want to play with Krishna. There are gopis who want to be with Krishna in conjugal relationship. So do we think they all are going to get a chance after billions and billions of days? There are so many. No, Krishna expands himself in that many forms, in that many rasas, in that many moods, to be with all of them simultaneously. That is amazing, because Krishna wants to satisfy everybody, all his devotees. Just like in Ras Leela, he expanded himself in so many forms to be with each and every gopi in the Ras Leela. That is mind-boggling. And not only that, another feature. Suppose now, in this world, we are being engaged in devotion service, so we are trying to advance. So those devotees who have reached perfection, and they have their Isht Dev, Radha Krishna, in whatever form, and they are content, happily serving Radha Krishna in that form, and then they leave the body. So Krishna or Radharani also, in that form only, they will be there in Golok Vrindavan to be with that devotee. This is really out of this world. And here it is said, all over creation, his potencies are acting under his direction without disturbing his eternal pastimes. They are always going, and here also the pastimes. That's why it's called Nitya Leela. How does he do that? Because he's God. He can do it. He's omnipotent. He can do that. And this is how he reciprocates with the love of his devotees. Only through devotional service can one understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable potencies, simultaneously acts impersonally and as a person. So he also acts impersonally because that's also one of his features. But he's not only impersonal. That's where we make the mistake. He acts just like the supreme emperor, and many thousands of kings and chiefs work under him. But they don't work under him as, as slaves or as people having some salaries. Everybody serves him out of love. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a supreme, independent, controlling person. And all the demigods, including Lord Brahman, Lord Shiva, Indra, the king of heaven, the king of the moon planet, and the king of the sun planet, work under his direction. The Vedas confirm that it is out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the sun is shining, the wind is blowing, and the fire is distributing heat. The material nature produces all kinds of moving and non-moving objects within the material world. But none of them can independently act or create without the direction of the Supreme Lord. So none of them, whether all the demigods, material nature, and all these potencies, sun is shining, wind is blowing, fire is this, nobody can act independently or without the direction of the Supreme Lord. All of them act as his tributaries, just like subordinate kings who offer their annual taxes to the emperor. But it's not that he has to sit down and see and have meetings every day with all the demigods, how they're doing, any problems in the universe. No, he doesn't have to do this. His energies, they take care of everything. The Vedic injunctions state that every living entity lives by eating the remnants of food offered to the personality of Godhead. In great sacrifices, the injunction is that Narayan should be present as a supreme predominating deity of the sacrifice, and that after the sacrifice is performed, the remnants of food should be distributed among the demigods. This is called Yajna Bhag. Every demigod has an allotment of Yajna Bhag, which he accepts as prasadam. The conclusion is the demigods are not independently powerful. They are posted as different executives under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they eat prasadam or the remnants of sacrifices. They execute the order of the Supreme Lord exactly according to his plan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the background, and because his orders are carried out by others, it appears that he is impersonal. In our grossly materialistic way, we cannot conceive how the Supreme Person is above the impersonal activities of material nature. Therefore, the Lord explains in the Bhagavad Gita that there is nothing superior to him, and that the impersonal Brahman is subordinately situated as a manifestation of his personal rays. Sripad Sridhar Swami has composed a nice verse in this regard. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has no material senses, but through whose direction and will all the material senses are working. He is a supreme potency of all material senses or sense organs. He is omnipotent, and he is a supreme performer of everything. Therefore, he is worshipable by everyone. Unto that Supreme Person do I offer my respectful obeisances. So everybody, all the Vaishnava Acharyas have always said that he is the supreme person. And Prabhupada coined this terminology, supreme personality of Godhead. He went one step further. Supreme personality of Godhead. Never read this before in anywhere else. So among all the personalities of gods also, like their different incarnations, different expansions, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the supreme person. And then among all the expansions, he is the topmost. And just like because now we have access to internet and so many other things. Let's see the company Microsoft. Now Microsoft has offices all over the world. So many products are there, so many managers and heads and managing people of different countries and different places. So such a huge organization. Suppose when Bill Gates was a president. So Bill Gates wasn't present all over the world in all the offices. He was just sitting in his office, or wherever he would travel. That's a different story, but he would be at one place. But his energies, now here his energies are his orders through emails or whatever way. It would go to different offices all over the world, and they would take those orders, and everybody would work according to those orders. But Bill Gates wasn't present everywhere. So similarly here, that's a very material and very gross example. It doesn't convey the whole thing actually. But the same way, Krishna is there in Golok Vrindavan, but he's always here also at the same time. But everything goes on because of his orders, or how he has set up everything, the whole universe. Everything goes on accordingly. And whenever there are demons who try to create problems, then he comes and he takes care of those demons and performs his pastimes also at the same time to attract the living entities and keep the devotees happy. And also later on, the living entities will come and they will hear about his pastimes. Ultimately, they all should get purified, rectified, and go home back to Godhead. That's the whole idea. His idea behind the creation is not to make money. Like Bill Gates would open offices to make money, but Krishna, he has everything. Everything is his. There's nothing outside his opulence. So he doesn't need anything. All he needs is us to go home back to Godhead. That's all. But his energies are everywhere. Krishna himself declares in the Bhagavad Gita that because he is transcendental to all sentient and insentient beings, he is known as Purushottam, which means the supreme personality. Purusha means person and Uttam means supreme or transcendental. In another place, the Lord says that as the air is situated in the all-pervading sky, everyone is situated in him, and everyone is acting under his direction. So everyone is situated in him. Nothing is outside his jurisdiction. In fact, in the I don't know if it really happened, but it's in the folklore. Like people talk about different stories. So there was an incident between Akbar and Birbal. So Akbar once called Birbal, that Birbal, you say your Lord Krishna is this great, this great or that great. Is he greater than me? Birbal thought for a while that I have to answer Akbar's question in such a way that his pride should be shattered, but his ego should not be shattered. So Birbal said, no, Basha, Akbar, I think you are greater than Krishna. Akbar was happy, but at the same time he was surprised. Birbal, what are you saying? He is Lord, he is God. How can I be greater than God? And how can you say I am greater than him? Why this with this kind of answer? Birbal said, actually, Maharaj, you can do something that even Krishna cannot do. Akbar said, what? I can do something that Krishna cannot do? What is it that I can do and Krishna cannot do? Birbal said, Samrat, you can kick somebody out of your kingdom. Krishna cannot. After thinking, Akbar said, now I understand, because everything is his kingdom. There's nothing outside Krishna's creation. Everything is his creation. Everything is his kingdom. How can he kick anybody out? There's nothing outside. There's no such thing as, no place. So very, very intelligent answer. So Krishna cannot kick out anybody. So this is what he is saying. Lord is, the air is situated in the all, the Lord says that as the air is situated in all pervading sky, everyone is situated in him and everyone is acting under his direction. That's his beauty. The Vedas personified continue. Dear Lord, they prayed, you are equal to all with no partiality toward a particular type of living entity. It is due to their own material desires that all living entities enjoy or suffer in different conditions of life. As your parts and parcels, they're just like the sparks of a fire. Just as sparks dance in a blazing fire, all living entities are dancing on your support. You're providing them with everything they desire, and yet you're not responsible for their position of enjoyment or suffering. So their position of enjoyment or suffering is according to their karmas. And according to their desires, they're getting the birth or the body. There are different types of living entities: demigods, human beings, animals, trees, birds, beasts, germs, worms, insects, and aquatics, and all enjoy or suffer in life while resting on you, but according to their karmas. But ultimately, they all rest on you for everything. So just imagine even the demons. Demons want to kill Krishna. Kansa wanted to kill Krishna. Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill Prahlad Maharaj and then later Narasimha. But they all are dependent on them, dependent on the Lord for the maintenance, for everything. But still, this is the consciousness, demoniac consciousness. Instead of serving the person who has provided everything for our sustenance, for our enjoyment, for our pleasure, for our existence, we try to kill him. The living entities are of two kinds. One class is called Nitya Mukta, ever liberated, and other is called Nityabadha, ever conditioned. The Nitya Mukta living entities are in the spiritual kingdom, and the Nityabadhas are in the material world. In the spiritual world, both the living entities and the Lord are manifest in their original status, like live sparks in a blazing fire. But in the material world, although the Lord is all pervasive in his impersonal feature, the living entities have forgotten their Krishna consciousness to a greater or lesser degree. Just as sparks sometimes fall from a blazing fire and lose their original brilliant condition. The sparks fall into different conditions and retain more or less of their original brilliance. Some sparks fall onto dry grass and thus ignite another big fire. So we have all seen fire, and from the fire, the sparks are always coming out. So sometimes a spark, if they fall on water or something that is non-combustible, then the sparks, they just die down. That's it. Sometimes the sparks will just fall inside the fire itself. So they keep on burning. And sometimes the sparks can fall on a dry piece of grass. And from that, they can start another fire. So Prabhupada explains, so though some sparks fall onto dry grass and thus ignite another big fire. This is a reference to the pure devotees who take compassion on the poor and innocent living entities. The pure devotee ignites Krishna consciousness in the hearts of the conditioned souls, and thus the blazing fire of the spiritual world becomes manifest even within this material world. So this is a pure devotee. So when this kind of spark, of course, when we see the fire sparks are flying all over, we don't understand. But when this spark comes out and falls on the dry grass, so it all happens because of mercy of Krishna. He is arranging that. And the dry grass represents people who are ready now, or who can become ready by the mercy of a pure devotee to take up devotion service. Some sparks fall onto water and they immediately lose their original brilliance and become extinct. They are comparable to the living entities who take their birth in the midst of gross materialists, in which case their original Krishna consciousness becomes extinct. Extinct, or it gets covered over. Some sparks fall to the ground and remain midway between the blazing and extinct conditions. Thus, some living entities are without Krishna consciousness. Some are between having and not having Krishna consciousness, and some are actually situated in Krishna consciousness. The demigods in the higher planets, Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Sun God, and various other demigods, are all Krishna conscious. So Indra does so many things sometimes against Krishna, but actually he is always Krishna conscious, because he is not going to be in that position if he's not a devotee. And secondly, whatever he ends up doing, it actually glorifies Krishna. And it helps in Krishna's pastimes, directly or indirectly. So that's why the demigods are all Krishna conscious. Human society is between the demigods and the animals. And thus some humans are more or less Krishna conscious, and some are completely forgetful of Krishna consciousness. The third grade living entities, namely the animals, beasts, plants, trees, and aquatics, have completely forgotten Krishna consciousness. This example stated in the Vedas regarding the sparks of a blazing fire is very appropriate for understanding the condition of different types of living entities. But above all other living entities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or Purushottam, who is always liberated from all material conditions. Always liberated. He is always transcendental. Even if he comes as an animal, like a tortoise, Kurma Rupa, or Hayagriv, or Varadev, he's always transcendental. He's not like the animal. He had just assumed that form to help in his pastimes. That's about it. He came as a fish, Matsya Avatar. But he is not an ordinary fish. These are just his pastimes. The question may be raised as to why the living entities have fallen by chance into different conditions of life. To answer this question, we first have to understand that there cannot be any influence of chance for the living entities. Chance is for non-living entities. According to Vedic literature, living entities have knowledge, and thus they are called Chetan, which means in knowledge. Their situation in different conditions of life, therefore, is not accidental. It is by their choice because they have knowledge. It's not accidental. It just doesn't happen on its own. It's happening, whatever is happening in our lives is because of a choice. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, give up everything and just surrender unto me. This process of realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead is open for everyone. But still, it's a choice of the particular living entity whether to accept or reject this proposal. In the last portion of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna very plainly says to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, now I have spoken everything to you. Now you may choose to accept it or not. Yathechasi tatha kuru. As you wish, you do. I have explained everything to you. Even after explaining the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gave him a choice. Similarly, the living entities who have come down to this material world have made their own choice to enjoy this material world. It's not that Krishna sent them into this world. Material world was created for the enjoyment of the living entities who wanted to give up the eternal service of the Lord to become the supreme enjoyer themselves. So we wanted to be the enjoyers, controllers, proprietors. Can we be the enjoyer? Krishna sent us to material world. No, spiritual world is my place. So you go there and try to see if you can enjoy it. According to Vaishnava philosophy, when a living entity desires to gratify his senses and forgets the service of the Lord, he is given a place in the material world to act freely according to his desire. And therefore he creates a condition of life in which he either enjoys or suffers. So he creates a condition of life. Of course, none of us wants to suffer. But we have committed some karmas that makes us suffer. We should definitely know that both the Lord and the living entities are eternally cognizant. There is no birth and death for either the Lord or the living entities. The soul is not going to die. When creation takes place, this does not mean the living entities are created. The Lord creates the material world to give the conditioned souls a chance to elevate themselves to the higher form of Krishna consciousness. If a conditioned soul does not take advantage of this opportunity, after the dissolution of this material world, He enters the body of Narayan and remains there in deep sleep until the time of another creation. And then he starts his activities again. And then he is bound up. So every living entity's database is kept in the record. I mean, his records are kept in the database when he enters the body of Narayan for the whole night of Brahmaji. And when in the morning he does the creation again, he comes out. And then according to his desires, according to his karmas, he is given another body, and then his life is decided out, okay, whatever destiny he's going to have and whatever activities he's allowed to do, whatever body he's going to get, whatever family, whichever planet, which condition, and that's it. He starts all over again. But the data, the record is always kept in the data. In this connection, the example of the rainy season is very appropriate. Seasonal rainfall may be taken as an agent for creation because after the rainfall, the wet fields are favorable for growing different types of vegetation. Similarly, as soon as there is creation by the Lord's glancing over the material nature, immediately the living entities spring up in their different living conditions, just as different types of vegetation grow after a rainfall. The rainfall is one, but the creation of different plants is varied. The rain falls equally on the whole field, but the different plants sprout up in different shapes and forms according to the seeds planted. Similarly, the seeds of our desires are varied. Every living entity has a different type of desire, and that desire is the seed which causes its growth in a certain type of body. This is explained by Rupa Goswami by the word Papa Bija. Papa means sinful. All our material desires are to be taken as Papa Bija, or the seeds of sinful desires. Bhagavad Gita explains that our sinful desire is that we do not surrender unto the Supreme Lord. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad Gita, I shall give you protection from the reactions of sinful desires. These sinful desires are manifested in different types of bodies. Therefore, no one can accuse the Supreme Lord of partiality in giving one type of body to a certain type of living entity and another type of body to another living entity. All the bodies of the 8.4 million species are created according to the mental condition of the individual living entities. Mental condition means consciousness at the time of death. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Purushottam only gives them a chance to act according to their desires. Therefore, the living entities act by taking advantage of the facility given by the Lord. So act by taking advantage of the facility or the body given by the Lord. But it's all up to us how we want to act, how we want to, what do we want to do, what is our desire, what are our desires. Yes, it is very, very complicated. But at the same time, it depends on us. There's no such thing as everything is controlled by the Lord in our lives, so we are like robots. No, we're not robots. He is supremely independent and he has made everybody with some independence. Our independence is only up to the desire part. And after that, then we get stuck. That's it. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
थैंक यू प्रभु जी, थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू
इतना
माता।
इंटरेस्टिंग है ना, ये मन नहीं करता इसको छोड़ने को, ऐसा लगता है बस और पढ़ते जाओ।
ये चैप्टर जब मैंने पढ़ा था बहुत नींद आती थी।
अच्छा।
क्योंकि अकेले अकेले पढ़ने में
अकेले
नहीं
बोरिंग होते
जमता
थे,
है,
हाँ
नहीं
हाँ,
जम,
अकेले नहीं
बहुत
आता।
फिलॉसफी है।
यस यस।
But now I am really enjoying it when it comes to discussion and explanations. I really enjoy it.
और ध्यान इधर उधर कहीं नहीं जाता प्रभु जी, ये भी एक चीज है। जब when you are just, जैसे आप बोल रहे हो और हम पढ़ रहे हैं और हम सुन रहे हैं, तो इधर उधर कहीं नहीं दिमाग जाता, बिल्कुल उसी में रहता है। नेक्स्ट में क्या है, नेक्स्ट में क्या है। गुड।
Yeah, very interesting. Your
हाँ,
Prabhupada's
interesting
commentaries
है।
are amazing. Amazing purports by Prabhupada. Chalo, thank you all. You all have a safe and
Thank you very much
Krishna.
प्रभु जी। हरे
Jai
कृष्ण,
Shri
जय श्री प्रभु।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, जय श्रील प्रभुपाद। थैंक यू प्रभु जी।